you already have a press release, so I'm not going to go into the details of the report. I will try to highlight some points and keep it brief so that, what we tried to do in this report is what I'm going to try and tell you. What are the highlights of this report? What we have entered into, not just in Hyderabad, but in India and in the world, is a use and throw culture. That's, when I was, let's say in my teens or in my 20s, we didn't have this culture. Like if a radio got spoiled, then I as an engineer would open the radio, try to find out what was wrong in it and fix, replace a diode or something of that sort. Today, the entire motherboard is taken out and thrown out. Okay? Now, what is it that this is really going to do to us? The world's resources are finite. The world's capacity to absorb wastes are finite. And in this use and throw culture, what we are doing is we are growing exponentially, and that is something that a finite world just cannot bear. And that is what you're seeing all over, either at the local level or regional level or at the global level. At the local level, it is in terms of spoilage of lakes. At the regional level, you have problems like the atmospheric brown cloud, which is a huge cloud over South Asia in the winter. And at the global level, you see things like climate change, which is going to tear society apart in another 2 decades. Okay? So we need to reflect very deeply as to whether this use and throw culture that we have imbued is the right way to go. Okay. Coming to a more local issue, one of the problems, much earlier, 15 years back, I was on the Supreme Court Committee on Hussain Sagar Lake. And one of the salient things that we observed over there was that nowhere in this country is there a law which recognizes the ecosystem services that water gives us. So much so that if you look at what is the revenue record for water, it is given the same record as land. So basically a water body is treated as land with water in it. And there was a story actually that a bureaucrat told us when we were doing that last report, which is an old lady, according to some scheme, was to get some land because she was a widow, and she kept pestering the district collector of that time, and the district collector finally got fed up and told his underlings to give her some land, and lo, when she went to look at the land that she was allotted, it was in the middle of Hussain Sagar Lake. So water is nothing but land, with water. So the revenue number was that of land. So what we have done basically is not understood what nature is. That's our very central and fundamental problem, actually. Okay. And because we haven't, what we have done globally, which we can see locally, is essentially ecocide. It's very similar to genocide in a sense. So there is so much talk about what is happening in Canada and so on lately, all about the murder of one person as to who did it and how it happened and so on. But what is going to happen with the repeal of the Geo 111, in fact, is you literally will have hundreds of people over 60 dying because of heat stress, because the heat island effect is going to increase enormously. So what actually is happening, and this is something that it's not just this government that has attempted to do, it's even previous governments which have attempted to do. Previous governments have attempted to, for example, fill up Hussain Sagar Lake and sell that land. Okay? Now, in a sense, what is being attempted is to discard these 2 lakes, develop the land around it, and create something like the Delhi farmhouse area, and create an area which is basically meant for rich people. This is what is being attempted out there. Okay? What is Geo 111? Geo 111 was nothing but a simple government order which said that in a 10-kilometer radius around these reservoirs, don't do anything which will pollute the lakes, and remove those polluting sources which are polluting the lake, because these lakes were used for drinking water. Okay? So essentially, what really will happen in due course of time as we project, is water is going to become an issue which is going to lead to a lot of conflict. It already has in India. For example, you have conflict between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu on the question of the Kaveri water. And 3 days from now, I'm going to be both in Karnataka and Goa, where Karnataka is trying to basically divert water from the Mahadai river, which flows into Goa from Karnataka, into Mallaprabha, which is a river which originates in Karnataka and flows through Karnataka, because they have already polluted Mallaprabha with effluents from sugar mills and from distilleries and so on. So now they want to do this, and Goa and Karnataka are at war on this issue. Okay? So we are going to see water conflicts intensify within the next 20 years, much before climate change overtakes us in about 30 to 40 years. We're going to start seeing water conflicts, both regionally as well as internationally, within another 15 to 20 years. Okay? The closest water conflict we have, we've somehow resolved the conflict with Bangladesh, but certainly there is a brewing conflict with Pakistan and with China, which we need to look at very closely and see how to avoid these kind of things. Now, what is it that we basically said in this report? Very, very briefly, what we've said is that if you repeal Geo 111, you are going to have a major impact on the terrestrial ecology, on the aquatic ecology of the lakes, on the avifauna of that area, and on human beings. And if you want to avoid that, then basically we need to protect we need to protect nature, and the best way to do it in that area is to bring back Geo 111 and put in additional features and say that let us protect nature in that area. I'm not getting into the details because there are something like 15 odd conclusions we've come to, and they include things like that the heat in the city is going to increase, etc., etc. Now, what have we done? We've stopped using these lakes as water resources, and we are pumping water from Godavari and from Krishna. And if we were to replace the water that Himayat Sagar and Usman Sagar were giving us, what we require is an additional 50 megawatts power station, which will release something like about between 3 to 4 lakh tons of carbon dioxide per annum. And basically, if you were to pay a fair compensation, what is called a carbon tax, then that is going to cost Hyderabad citizens 500 crores per annum. This is what the implication is. I'm only taking one point out of the 15 and telling you that no such exercise has been done, not that I have seen, not that this committee has seen, has been done by government or any private agency as to what is the monetary, what is the ecological impact of repealing Geo 111. And that is what we've attempted to do without instruments, without access to data. Okay? If we had both these instruments and data, of course we would have done a far better job than what was possible right now. Okay. So there are two sets of recommendations we've made. After saying that this is going to be the impact on people, on terrestrial ecology, on aquatic ecology, etc., etc. What we have done is we basically divided the recommendations into two parts, those which are general and those which are very specific to the area. Now, obviously, the very specific recommendations are that bring back the central features of Geo 111. Okay? See that pollution doesn't enter the lake, etc., etc. And in short, protect the lakes. And in the process of protecting the lakes, you protect the environment itself, and therefore by protecting the environment, you protect people's health as well and people's well-being. Okay? These are specific to that area. Okay. What are the general recommendations that we've made? See, there are already court rulings in India which have talked about giving rights to water bodies and calling them living beings. So what we've said is, now declare these two lakes as living beings. So therefore they have rights. And once they have rights, then their advocates can advocate in their favor. Now, what those rights are, certainly we can discuss. Now, this has been done in other countries. It's been done in India. So why not here in Hyderabad? It's been done by the Chennai High Court and other places. Okay? We've discussed some of these issues in the report. Okay. The second point that we made out there is that for those farmers in the Geo 111 area, they are sequestering carbon dioxide, whereas Hyderabad is releasing carbon dioxide, right? Somebody is, now we have climate change, we have a problem, there's too much carbon dioxide being thrown out, and somebody is sequestering them. Now, tax those who are emitting carbon dioxide and give it to those who are sequestering carbon dioxide. This is what we've said. This is, this is climate justice, or a part of climate justice, okay? The third thing we've said is, if basically, there's been a lot of talk that, if we remove Geo 111, then there will be development. What is the kind of development that will happen? I won't get into that because Dr. Babu Rao has already gone into that a little bit. What I'm going to say is, here is the alternative. Let's create green jobs in this area. What are green jobs? We've spoiled the city. Let's clean it up. That's a green job. Okay? Now, creating power through green sources, that's a green job. So there are a series of such methods that we have suggested that create green jobs for the people in the Geo 111 area. So this is one point that and use Manrega to do this. There's already a scheme to do it. Why aren't we doing it? So these are the three general recommendations. The fourth, which is a legal recommendation, is there is a Supreme Court ruling which has upheld Geo 111 already. Okay? While we've not gone into the legal aspects of this whole thing, basically we feel that a repeal of the Geo 111 is basically in contempt of the Supreme Court order. And this needs to be explored. So if it is upheld, we need to go to court, or rather, somebody needs to go to court and examine as to whether we are in contempt, whether the repeal of Geo 111 is in contempt or not. And that needs to be done very urgently. Okay? So these are the four sort of broader conclusions that we have made out here. There are, of course, the conclusions which are very specific to the Geo 111 area itself. That is, those dams are 100 years old, they need to be examined, strengthened if necessary, etc. The two reservoirs need to be desilted. All these kind of very specific recommendations are also there. So we are offering you the report for comment, for discussion, and let there be a public sort of a discourse on this whole thing before we decide really what to do. Thank you very much.